Hello, my friends. I just wanted to hop on and kind of chat a little bit about the youth movement class. Why do I do a youth movement class? What inspired me to start this in the first place? Um, so, obviously, most of you who know who I am already know that I started off in the baseball world. I played for years and got into coaching immediately after my career ended. And I've been doing that, pretty much ever since. But why a movement class? What the heck is that? Why do we do that? So when I first started doing lessons back in like 2007, probably somewhere around there, doing one-on-one lessons with kids. I started off as strictly doing hitting lessons and some fielding lessons, and it can be an extremely frustrating endeavor to try to teach somebody how to swing and hit. Not just swing, but also make good contact consistently and repeatedly. Because you'll watch somebody swing that just looks off and they crush. And then you'll find somebody whose swing just looks money and they miss. So there's a lot of weird aspects to it. It's an intricate, movement that's extremely hard to perform accurately, to get bat speed and and to get good contact all the time. So we were taking kids that ranged from ages 6 all the way up through college, and trying to teach them these dynamic things. And we tried to establish like a kind of a protocol, at least I did anyways, of every time I started with somebody, what's the first thing that I would do with them to kind of see where they're at. So I would have them do dry swings, which means they're not hitting anything, and then throw something at them and have them hit it and kind of see what happens. And the longer I did it, the more I realized it wasn't necessarily that they needed more practice at this skill, but that they needed more time spent exploring what their bodies can do. Physically, what are they capable of? We run through a dynamic warm up before they hit, and it's a struggle. Well, we probably shouldn't be swinging a bat then, So obviously, we can't be that like strict with it. Like if you can't do the warm up, you can't hit, because we would lose people that want to just hit. People want to do the performance aspect of it, the skill aspect of it, the fun stuff. So, it started me on this path of like, okay, how do we get hitters specifically to do some more foundational type things that help their hitting? Like, can they do a lunge walk with some stability? Can they rotate their shoulders without rotating their hips? Can they do that rotation without moving their head too much? So we started we kind of reverse engineered it. We went from the most intricate thing, which is actually hitting, and then we started going backwards. Okay, well, like what's a step down from hitting a live pitch, hitting front toss or short toss? What's a step back from that, hitting off a tee or ball ups? What's a step back from that, working on just the mechanics of the swing, hitting a punching bag, and then another instructor I worked with a lot, Zapper, actually started doing like the stick stuff where you got the stick across your chest and you're working on the movement patterns for hitting. And that kind of took it another step back, and then I was like, okay, well then how does our weight room stuff apply to this as well? How are we developing strength in planes of motion that actually translate into hitting? So I kind of kept going back and back and back and back and back. And then I realized, like we need to get people squatting and lunging and rotating and moving med balls and doing split stance work and working on their knee mobility, their hip mobility, and their posture, and like it just got to be so much. But that, instead of deterring me away from going that broad, got me excited because it's definitely more fun to explore multiple things rather than doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, and saying those those taglines over and over again, like stride and load, rotate, throw your hands, over and over and over again, and keep harping on those same things when really it's probably that the kid just can't quite move that way yet. So we need to stop harping on the thing that's so intricate and hard to do and give them actual fundamental steps and pieces to build themselves into the type of athlete and mover that can actually swing a bat. You know what I mean? So like if a kid's running mechanics are a mess, it's probably not healthy for them to play a sport anyways. So we need to kind of take a step back and work on those things. So ideally, that's how you would progress from a baby not being able to move to being able to like boost themselves up to then being able to roll over and then, pushing themselves up onto their, hands and knees and crawling and turning that into walking and so on and kind of building our way up. But somewhere in that line, we get around or we get away from the playground and exploring what our bodies can do, and we start to turn into sitters because, school has a lot to do with that. We have to meet all these requirements to get our education and learn, and it requires a lot of us just sitting in one place. So I felt very compelled to create something that can supplement that movement. So, you have to go to school. I'm not telling you not to go to class. You need to learn. You need to start to prepare yourself mentally for the things that life is going to throw at you. But at the same time, we need recess and we need PE, and we maybe need something outside of school too that kind of helps, fill those gaps so that we're not having terrible posture and crappy bodies by the time we graduate high school, and for the longest time that's just been limited to athletes get that and no one else, so this class isn't, entirely just for kids that want to play sports. It's for every kid that wants to not be a crappy mover when they're old, and old, can feel like a lot of different things. It can feel like I'm 30, I'm old. Yeah, well, yeah, if your posture's brutal and you can't move and you hurt and your job kicks your butt every day, then yeah, you are old at 30. But there's people in their 60s, 70s, 80s that can do amazing things still. And, age-wise, they might be considered older, but their bodies are still doing things. So I want to try to help set the foundations of creating a lifelong enjoyment of moving and feeling pain-free and being able to do, whatever it is they want to do with their bodies. And then at the same time, that's going to help the kids that do want to play sports because they're not going to only get those really, really skill specific things that might be out of their reach right now, or that lead them on a path of injury because they're overly doing the same movement patterns only, and that's a debate that's kind of raged on again in the baseball world is should kids be throwing a lot? Yes, they should be throwing a lot. That's my stance on that. But if all they do is play catch and hit, they're going to miss a ton of things. They need to be doing strength training for their legs and their core, and they need to be connecting their bodies together and rotating, and they need to be climbing stuff and jumping and running and, doing all that stuff, is only going to help make them a more well-rounded and resilient body. So that's the goal of the movement class at the youth and adult level, both. It's just that we take the youth group and we kind of tailor it a little bit more around games and having fun and, being able to explore what their bodies can do. So we do, dynamic warm-up, we do skill specific drills, and then we'll hopefully find something fun to do that utilizes the skills and stuff that we develop. So yeah, that's what the youth movement class is all about, and that's why I'm passionate about it, and that's why it's fun, and I really, really enjoy it. And I can't wait to work with more and more people and more kids, and develop that lifelong love of fitness and moving and adventure and exploring. So yeah, hopefully I'll see you or your kids in class, and we'll get moving. Have a great day.